You enter the world unable to walk. Unable to feed yourself. Unable to even hold your own head up. If someone simply walked away, you wouldn't survive for more than a few hours. Compared to almost every other animal on Earth, human babies seem unbelievably useless. A newborn giraffe can stand within an hour. A foal can run on the same day it is born. Even baby chimpanzees can cling tightly to their mother's fur almost immediately. So why are humans different? Why would evolution produce the most intelligent species on Earth, yet begin life as one of the weakest? It sounds like a terrible design. But it's actually one of evolution's greatest masterpieces. The helplessness of a human baby isn't a mistake. It's the reason humans conquered the planet. To understand why, you have to travel back roughly 300,000 years, long before cities, farming, or even written language. Imagine waking up on an African savanna. The sun is barely rising. Your small band of hunter-gatherers is already preparing to move. Predators roam nearby. Food isn't guaranteed. Every day is a challenge. Now imagine one member of the group is carrying a tiny baby. The infant can't walk. Can't follow the group. Can't even sit upright. At first glance, this seems like a disaster. Surely natural selection would favor babies that could move sooner. After all, faster development means better survival, right? Surprisingly, no. Because humans weren't evolving to become faster. They were evolving to become smarter. And intelligence comes with a huge cost. Your brain is the most expensive organ in your body. Although it makes up only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes roughly 20% of your resting energy as an adult. In newborns, that percentage is even higher. Their rapidly growing brains consume astonishing amounts of energy. No other primate invests so much energy into brain development after birth. Why? Because there simply isn't enough room inside the womb. Human brains are enormous. If babies stayed inside until their brains were fully developed, childbirth would become almost impossible. The human pelvis presents an evolutionary puzzle. Millions of years ago, your ancestors began walking upright. Walking on two legs changed everything. The pelvis became shorter and narrower to support efficient movement. That was great for covering long distances. But it created a problem. The birth canal became much tighter. Meanwhile, human brains kept getting bigger. Evolution found itself trapped between two competing demands. A wider pelvis would make walking less efficient. A narrower pelvis makes childbirth far more dangerous. For decades, scientists called this the obstetric dilemma. It's one of the most famous ideas in human evolution. Today, researchers believe the story is even more complicated. Scientists like Holly Dunsworth have shown that energy may be just as important as pelvic anatomy. Pregnancy places enormous demands on a mother's metabolism. By around 9 months, many women are already approaching the sustainable limit of how much energy their bodies can produce every day. Keeping the baby inside much longer would become increasingly difficult. In other words, babies aren't necessarily born because they're fully ready. They're born because it's time. Much of the construction work happens afterward. Think about your own brain. At birth, it contains most of the neurons it will ever have. But the connections between those neurons are only beginning. Over the next several years, billions upon billions of new connections form. Every sight. Every sound. Every touch. Every face. Every word. All of these experiences literally shape the architecture of the brain. That's something remarkable. Instead of arriving with a finished brain, humans arrive with a brain that's ready to learn. This is one of our greatest evolutionary advantages. A deer is born already knowing almost everything it needs to survive. A human isn't. Instead, humans learn. They absorb culture, language, technology, social rules, hunting strategies. Cooking techniques. Medicine. Stories. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next. This flexibility allowed humans to thrive almost everywhere on Earth. From frozen Arctic tundra to scorching deserts. From tropical rainforests to isolated islands. Humans didn't evolve for one environment. They evolved to learn any environment. But that learning requires time. Lots of time. That's why human childhood is unusually long. Longer than almost any other animal. In fact, humans continue developing well into their 20s. Your brain isn't fully mature until around the age of 25. Think about that. For a quarter of a century, your brain is still under construction. No other species invests so much time in learning. Of course, this creates another problem. How do helpless children survive for so many years? The answer lies in something equally unique about humans. Cooperation. Humans don't raise children alone. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherers have repeatedly found that childcare is shared. Grandparents help. Older siblings help. Aunts. Uncles. Friends. The entire community often contributes. Researchers call this cooperative breeding. Instead of relying on a single exhausted mother, human societies evolved systems where many people helped keep children alive. This changed everything. Because once childcare became a group effort, babies no longer needed to develop quickly. They could afford to remain dependent. That extra time fueled larger brains. Better learning. Greater intelligence. And eventually, civilizations. Some scientists even argue that grandmothers played one of the biggest roles in human evolution. Known as the grandmother hypothesis, the idea suggests that older women increased the survival of grandchildren by helping gather food and provide care. Unlike many mammals, human females often live decades beyond menopause. That might seem unusual. But those extra years may have helped entire families survive. Every grandparent carrying food. Watching children. Sharing knowledge. Made human evolution possible. The story doesn't end there. Human babies also possess incredible hidden abilities. Although they can't walk, they're born ready to connect. Within hours, newborns recognize human faces. They prefer looking at eyes. They recognize their mother's voice. They begin learning language long before speaking their first word. Their brains constantly search for patterns. Every interaction teaches them something. Even crying serves a purpose. It communicates needs before language exists. Smiling strengthens social bonds. Eye contact builds attachment. Human babies are learning machines disguised as helpless creatures. In fact, they're so good at learning that modern artificial intelligence researchers often compare machine learning to early childhood development. Not because babies know everything, but because they're built to discover everything. This extraordinary flexibility comes with trade-offs. Human children require years of food. Years of protection. Years of teaching. They're expensive. Very expensive. Yet every investment pays dividends later. An adult human can invent tools. Build shelters. Create languages. Develop agriculture. Write books. Design computers. Launch spacecraft. All because evolution prioritized learning over independence. Ironically, the very thing that makes babies seem weak is exactly what made humans strong. So the next time you see a newborn struggling to lift its own head, remember this. You're not looking at a failed design. You're looking at evolution making a long-term investment. One that transformed an ordinary African ape into a species capable of exploring the moon and asking questions about its own origins. Human babies are helpless for a reason. They're born before they're finished. Not because evolution couldn't do better. But because this was the better solution. The first chapter of every human life begins with dependence. And that dependence made intelligence possible. So why are human babies so useless? Because evolution wasn't trying to build the strongest baby. It was trying to build the smartest adult. And judging by everything humans have accomplished, it succeeded.